Okay, thanks. I don't know what happened.
You were live.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I had a little technical difficulty, but this is our Township Board of Trustees business meeting for Monday, March 8th, and it is 7:39, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
for which
it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will start with our roll call. Again, I'll remind you, present and where you're present at. So I start, Jameson Yeager.
I am present and here in Grosse Ile, Michigan.
Carl Bletcher.
Present and in Grosse Ile, Michigan.
David Nadu.
Present in Grosse Ile Township, Michigan.
Oot O'Connor.
Present and in Grosse Ile Township.
Joe Porcerelli. You're muted, Joe.
Sorry. Present, Grosse Ile Township.
Thanks, Joe. Mike Jarecki.
Present, Grosse Ile Township.
And Jim Budney, present, Grosse Ile Township. Do we have any additions or deletions? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Support.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. All in favor, please say aye. Mr. Jarecki. Unmute, please, Mr. Jarecki. Unmute. You're muted.
I see that.
Okay, there you go. Okay, and myself, I vote aye also. So the consent agenda passes.
You missed me, but also
I did. I'm sorry, Jameson. I saw you up there. Go ahead, Jameson.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw you on my screen and I started, so we did it differently and than the roll call, and then I forgot you. I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, so 6-1, it passes. Action items. Mr. Nadu.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. I'd like to make a motion based upon the recommendation by the Position Selection Committee that the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby approves the hire of Weston Lee Meinhold to the position of Maintenance 2 with the Grosse Ile Department of Public Services. Approval is contingent upon a successful pre-employment physical, drug screening, and a driver's license check. Derek, is there anything you wanted to add? I'm sorry.
We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Now you can call
Mr.
Derek
T.
in.
Good evening, board members. I want to just introduce our hire that's before us tonight. Mr. Meinhold, his selection by the committee was, for the most part, unanimous. We had a lot of very qualified candidates, but Mr. Meinhold had the type of qualifications, the education, and the experience that the committee felt was going to be a very strong asset for our DPW department. He replaces Jerry Dion, who actually worked for us for quite a few years, 20 plus years, who retired in January. So this brings us back to our full complement of DPW employees, and that total is 3. This is a union position. The terms and conditions of his employment are dictated by the collective bargaining agreement Those terms and conditions are listed in the packet, as well as his application. The committee was made up by individuals both inside and outside the department to ensure that it was an unbiased selection and that we got multiple points of view on the applicants that we were reviewing. We had 11 or 12 applications in total. We chose to choose 11 after a ranking of the applications we received, interviewed 6, and then re-ranked our candidates after those interviews. And once again, the consensus was that Mr. Meinhold ranked the highest out of all candidates. And the recommendation before you tonight is a result of that.
Questions by the board?
Eric, I just have one.
Sure.
Go ahead, Joe.
I know it takes a long time and a lot of hours put into something like this. I noticed there was 3 individuals that you have them ranked, 1, 2, and 3. That was from the packet. Does this group stay as say like we do it in the police department for a year or so, or is this just for the hiring? The first one doesn't go, you go to the second, then go to the third, and then it's done from there, or do you keep this list for a undetermined amount of time?
Two answers to your questions. The first question, yeah, we do hold on to the applications for a period of time, so long as the applicant isn't opposed to that, just to make sure that we have a running list basically in the file of candidates we had already interviewed should we have a vacancy down the road. And then the second question, your answer, we rank them in case, yes, number 1 didn't end up either accepting the job or there was an issue. Then we move to number 2 and then to number 3. So it's pretty much yes to both those questions that you asked.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion based upon the recommendation by the Positions Selection Committee. The Groseal Township Board hereby approve the hire of Weston Lee Meinhold to the position of Maintenance 2 with the Groseal Department of Public Services. Approval is contingent upon a successful pre-employment physical, drug screening, and driver's license check. I'll try not to forget you, Mr. Yeager, this time. And I'll start roll call vote. Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
Ms. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Porcerelli.
Aye.
Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Welcome aboard, Mr. Meinhold. Eric, you have another body to help you do the job.
Thank you very much.
All right. Our second action item, I will introduce it. A motion that the Groseal Township Board hereby directs our legal counsel to place the attached ordinance on food vending, mobile food vendors, into the necessary format and approves the scheduling of a public hearing as required.
Support.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to bring Derek in. Derek is the head of the work group that's putting this together. Derek?
So this ordinance or this draft idea came out of community development because we were running into issues with food trucks and the interest in food trucks within Groseal. There are no regulations on our books currently that permit food trucks on Groseal. So by way of there being a lack of ordinances that allow them, essentially it's not allowed. So if there isn't governing legislation that permits them, it's not permitted. I think that there's been over the past 12 months a huge surge of food truck activities, not just on Groseal, or at least interest in Groseal, but in the entire downriver community. So a lot of us in community development, whether you're in Trenton or Woodhaven or Wyandotte, have been dealing with how do we regulate these entities. And once again, Groseal wasn't out of step in having those similar type problems. So I went to the supervisor at that point in time, Mr. Loftus, and expressed the concerns that I had regarding the need to develop some legislation that dealt with this and make a decision whether we want to have them or not have them. And basically that way we had some sort of legislation that we could pass to any entities that might be interested in bringing a food truck to Groseal. So we talked about it at length, and a committee was put together of individuals from different positions, elected and appointed individuals and employees. And that list is included in the action item here, but it included the supervisor at that point in time. And I think Jim was the supervisor-elect at that point in time. That's why he's listed as township trustee on here, although he was part of the conversation after he became trustee as well. So both the previous supervisor and the current supervisor, the previous supervisor when he was supervisor, not after. The planning commission chairman, our planning consultant, myself, the township manager, the DDA director, and the airfield commerce park manager. And these conversations started about what we would want a potential ordinance to look like, dating back to fall, early fall, September, October, that area, that time frame. So as the committee met, we started to rough out a framework for what this ordinance would look like. We're actually on draft number 4. So it hasn't been without a lot of conversation and a lot of review as far as what this ordinance would look like. Mr. Budney had talked about it a couple of months ago. He had gathered feedback from the general public with regards to their desires. We had involved the DDA, we had involved the Commerce Park, and ultimately what came out of all these conversations was the draft that's before you tonight. And just I want to take a quick second to talk about process. What happens is the ordinance gets put into a rough format, and our planner developed what you see before you tonight. If there is support for that, then what we do is we send that to legal counsel. Legal counsel then takes and puts that into an actual legal format that could be adopted by the board. He would then bring that back to the board. The board would establish a public hearing. That public hearing would take place, and then the board would adopt the ordinance with or without changes based upon that public hearing. The document would then be published in the record, the publication of record, and then will go into effect 30 days after publication. So there is a bit of a process to this, and we're kind of in its infancy in the first step. So I just want to be clear on that. So that's where we're at. I think the ordinance that's been developed was done so through a lot of conversation across a long period of time that took into consideration what the community wanted, what the general public wanted, what the business community wanted, what the zoning would allow for, and the best location for this type of operation, taking all those things into consideration. I know leading up to the meeting, there was some conversation about the Airport Commerce Park Commission and some of the concerns that they had. The rate structure that we would charge for this type of activity for the permit, that would be handled separate from the ordinance. And we do that way because rates can change, permit fees can change. You don't want to have to go back to the ordinance if the rates are included in the ordinance and go through adjusting the whole ordinance and amending the whole ordinance when all you want to do is adjust the rate, which can be done by action of the township board rather than the ordinance amendment process. In addition to that, rates change based upon inflation and other conditions. We want our ordinance to be living documents that last as long as possible and deal with things that aren't subjected to things like rates of inflation and that type of thing. So when we talk about rate structure, that still has to be established. I think the intent is definitely to have the Commerce Park Commission involved in those conversations, where the revenue would go, what the rate structure would look like, and that would be handled as a separate action by way of the township board through the establishment of those regulations in an administrative format rather than in an ordinance design. So, so that's kind of where we're at, and I'll quit talking so you guys can have the opportunity to ask questions that you might have.
Yeah, this just gets the ball rolling. I think there's been a lot of misconception, and I heard a lot of discussion about why are you trying to stop food trucks. In fact, what we're working on here allows us to have food trucks. So, Ms. O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Derek, I want to applaud you for your presentation. You answered every question I had for you. So very thorough. I think it's important, like you said, that the fees, the permitting fees and the penalties and so forth are discussed separately administratively. And that gives us more of a pinpoint control moving forward without having to reopen an entire ordinance. I wanted to then really, I just have one minor little question to ask, and that is in section 185-29 additional regulations. It talks in paragraph 3 about flashing, blinking, or strobe lights, and exterior lights shall be hooded to direct attention, blah, blah, blah. Does this preclude fairy lights, or will they be allowed to use, Christmas, the small kind of pinpoint lights on the truck? I see a lot of food trucks have external little decorations with just like Christmas tree lights. They don't blink or do anything, but I was just curious, would those be excluded? Would they not be allowed under our paragraph 3 there?
I think to answer your question, the regulation in that sort of circumstance would be discretionary. I think the intent of that paragraph is to avoid any kind of lighting that might be disruptive. Yeah. If it's not a disruptive type of lighting, it'd be up to the discretion of the enforcing entity to determine whether that was the case. And if it's not, then it would be fine. Okay.
And I just have one more in paragraph 6. It talks about cooking outside of a commercial, of a residential area. Since partially we're talking about having food trucks located at the Airport Commerce Park, whereas Mike also very eloquently outlaid some of the plans going on there, we might want to look into some sort of addition to some spacing from a commercial property, so that a future commercial property isn't impacted by smoke or barbecue smells, etc. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Comment, Uda, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bletcher.
Jim, I had a question or concern that the commission needs to take up, and that is how the permits are going to be allocated and renewed. As an example, if we have 3 spaces and we have 4 vendors that are looking to bring a truck in, say the permits are for 30 days or for 60 days, what happens at the end of that time? How do we determine, and how does the airport manager or wherever's in charge decide whether or not to renew a permit again for another 60 days or to go with a different vendor? Those are the kinds of questions I'd like to see a recommendation made and be brought back to us.
I believe our discussion was it was going to be on they're going to, whatever the time period for the permit, when that was up, it's first come, first serve. So you have to come back to the township, and if you're the first guy to show up to get a new permit, you're going to be fine. Derek, is that correct? Do I have that correct? Isn't that what we talked about?
I believe that's accurate. We have the permitting period as an individual calendar month. So the first of the month, if you want a renewal, you'd have to come back and submit, and we have a maximum of 3 per month. So
right. And you're going to have to come back. You're not, there's nobody's going to get in line and be able to reserve it for half a year or anything like that. To be fair, you have to come back every month. Does that answer your question, Carl? Your
It
Bobby?
does, and thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else?
Well, Mr. Supervisor?
You again? I thought you only had one more. Go ahead,
No.
Uda.
Well,
Thank you.
I have to address this. If the
Yes.
lawyer looks at the ordinance and he can't find the specific language that says how we're going to manage the re-permitting, maybe we need to tighten that up a little bit.
Well, remember, this is going to be put into legal format. This is
Right.
not, this is just the rough outline of what we're gonna have, where it's gonna be put into
Okay.
a format.
Yeah, I just think it.
No,
it'll be
it's a good, no,
important.
but you're
Right.
absolutely right. You don't want to leave things hanging.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mhm.
Jim?
Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I have a question. I kind of share the concern about, limited space. I don't disagree with it. It's 3. And I think the proposed ordinance says that it goes to the clerk's office to decide on a first come, first served basis. And it starts like the month before the month that you're going to get a permit for, right? The first day.
Correct.
Prior month. I don't have a solution. So typically I don't say anything when I don't have a better way of doing it, but it just seems a little problematic. I think I think we got to really be careful with that and give it a lot of thought, because I can see a lot of people, making a claim that maybe they've been excluded for whatever reason. There's a bias and somebody is there, first day of every prior month or whatever. I don't have the answer, but I think that's an area that you need to give a lot of thought to, especially if we have 4 or 5 people.
And good point. And that is one of the reasons for the public hearing.
Yeah.
On it is to get these questions. Again, this is just a start to get the ball rolling. It's not a final product by any means.
Yeah. Then my second
point.
this is sort of just an intent. What is our intent with the permitting fees? I take it the township's going to share in some of that revenue. Is that our intent?
That is our intent.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anyone else? See, Noah, are you raising your hand, Uda? See no others, we will move. The motion has been made that the Groseal Township Board hereby direct legal counsel to place the attached ordinance into the necessary format and approves the scheduling of a public hearing as required. Ms. O'Connor, I'll start with you.
I will vote yes.
Okay, Mr. Porcerelli. Joe, yeah, yep.
Mute, Joe.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Jarecki.
Aye.
Mr. Yeager.
Aye.
Mr. Bletcher.
Aye.
Mr. Nadeau.
Aye.
And Mr. Budney votes aye. So we can get our food truck ordinance moving along. Thank you, everybody. With that, we have no more action items. So we will get into our reports. Madam Clerk.
Here on Groseal, in my kitchen. A short report today. The clerk's office is quietly plugging along. As Mr. Jarecki pointed out, we do handle a number of different kinds of permits, solicitation permits, etc. If you need something from the Township Clerk's office, we are open by appointment. Our number is 734-676-4422. Give us a call, ask for Brian Friel or Elena Farmer, and they will be able to set up a way or a time to help you. If you have anything to drop off for the clerk's office, of course, you can also drop it into one of the drop-off boxes in front of the building. Number two, as Mr. Duker brought to our attention earlier in the meeting, there is a potential Planning Commission meeting scheduled for Monday, March 29. It'll be a Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. And I believe the main topic of discussion is the next step with the Pirates Cove project. I invite people to watch this. It's very interesting. It'll be a really cool project for the airport. And so we're taking the next steps in the planning process. And then finally, as the liaison to the Fire Commission, I just wanted to remind people that there is a Fire Commission meeting taking place on Thursday, March 11th at 6 p.m. It is also on Zoom, and we've met with some residents in the past couple of weeks to discuss new ways of reaching out to our residents about how to be prepared for a call if there's an emergency. And so we'll be taking that to the commission on Thursday, and I'll hopefully have a report for you after that. Fire Chief Beaudry informed me earlier today, just as a matter of statistics, that as of to date, we have had 101 rescues and 13 fire calls. And that is the clerk's report for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. From the Treasurer's Office, all 2020 unpaid real property taxes are now considered delinquent and must be paid directly to Wayne County with the applicable penalty fees. Wayne County, their online payment link is waynecounty.com/PTA, and they have the current 2020 delinquent tax information. Payments can be made to Wayne County online, by mail, or at a Wayne County kiosk, which I didn't know that they had, located in the Sunoco station in Brownstown at 2198.
Somebody's phone, please. Please, there, thank you.
The kiosk is located in the Sunoco station at 21980 Sibley Road. All delinquent personal property taxes for local businesses are to be paid to Groseal Township. Statements will be sent out by our office in early April to those businesses with delinquent personal property. The Treasurer's Office has begun to compile the tax roll data to balance and settle the 2020 tax rolls with Wayne County. And as of this date, we have collected 96% of the total 2020 tax roll, with all distributions made timely. And that concludes the Treasurer's Report. But I also want to mention that there is no DPS meeting tomorrow night. Next meeting is scheduled for April 13th. And from the Rec Commission, voted to move forward with the replacing and improving the fences at Centennial Farm. So you might see some changes over the next, I'm not sure, several months or so, but that project is going forward. And the next Recreation Commission meeting is April 1st. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, David. Moving to Trustee Reports, Mr. Jarecki, if you would, please.
Yes, reported all the numbers at the last meeting. Nothing new to report. Our next meeting's on Tuesday, the 23rd.
Thank you. Mr. Porcerelli.
I'd just like to add a couple of things for the Commerce Park Commission. As you heard earlier, Mr. Heil was talking about the RAB, And apparently approximately 83 people were interested in that RAB. And what that is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a forum for the exchange of information in partnership with citizens and the Army Corps of Engineers on the restoration project here at the airport. And although the township isn't the one that says to have it or not, I just think that we should endorse it. It's for the people. It's, I think, a good idea. And it does give, it's a conduit for information to go back and forth. And I just wanted to add that to what Mr. Heil was saying. Also, the second thing I'd like to mention with the airport, in the last year, I've been trying to get the soccer fields, the, I guess you'd call it junior football field, and the baseball fields there. I'd like to get them retested for lead contamination because there was an issue there years ago. Now, Mike gave me the paperwork on this, and I want to thank you, Mr. Duker, on researching this. And it was, I'm not sure if it was 05 or 06, but it was back some time ago that it was, excuse me, that it was redone. But the Army Corps of Engineers stated they never retested what they did when they remediated this issue. So I made a contact down to Louisville, Kentucky today, and she's going to get back to me. I requested that they do test those fields at the last meeting we went to, and that was some months back, the Zoom meeting we had with the Army Corps. But I will get back with you next month to know. I just think it's very important also that those fields get retested, because those are the children out there, and all my research shows there's obviously zero amount that should be in children at all. There is no amount that they say is safe for kids. And there's no reason to be alarmed that it wasn't fixed correctly the first time, but for some reason they just didn't go back and retest. And that's all I'm asking for. So I'll have that hopefully next month for you, or I'm sorry, next meeting for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Jameson.
There is a zoning board of appeals meeting on 23 March at 6 p.m. and that'll be available via Zoom. And I just want to let everybody know I've been out for the past couple months, and I'm back here in Grosse Ile and ready to resume my duties. So thank you.
Good to see you, Jameson. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you. Good to have you back, Jameson. Good to see you again. I have the pleasure of sitting on two commissions. The first is the Greenways Open Space. We have two announcements. One is that the chips are being put down at the connector between Ferry and Gage. TNT has started that project within the last 3-4 days. Second of all, we have a resignation that is pending by Dan Jaster. Dan has been a valuable member of Greenways Open Space. He is determined that he has to go in a different direction. We are soliciting applications for Greenways Open Space. If anyone is interested, they should obtain an application from Township Hall and submit that by 5 p.m. next Monday, that is March 15th. Second commission I sit on is the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. And I am planning on and will be doing a sidewalk inventory with John Hennessy, a member of the commission, who is also an engineer. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Moving on, Township Attorney, Mr. Sordi.
Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, is everyone's, well, first off, I hope everyone was very happy. I certainly was, and I know Brian was, with the meeting we had regarding the Open Meetings Act in the board. So I'm always available for questions, and I think that was a great start to some issues that, you know, we continue working in the right direction. So with that, as I mentioned during that meeting, you know, through the end of the month, meetings are to be conducted via Zoom. We're watching closely for new directive from the state, whether or not that's going to change, but we do know what the rules are after the first of the month. So hopefully I'll have an update for you at the next meeting where we are with that. We do have 33rd District Court continues the prosecutions and matters in the via Zoom. again, that seems to be working very well, and we seem to be working out things pretty well from that perspective. So with that, I'm looking forward to working on the ordinance for the food trucks. And as always, I'm here to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Brian, for your putting on that Open Meetings Act. We do have to follow up with, there's a part that we didn't discuss that needs follow up with fire and police, and I believe Brian's trying to set that up, so we'll get on that. But thank you guys for doing that.
And Mr. Supervisor, if I may, I know
Yes,
there's some questions with the recent new orders that came out from the state regarding use of township facilities. Because our township facilities are kind of so broad in nature, primarily Centennial Farm on what's available to use there, and the airport itself. I'm working on with the with the department heads directives of where we are right now with our current rules and regulations, and what can transpire there, what can't, because obviously there's a lot of demand for the public for use of buildings as things are starting to open up. The unfortunate thing is, if you are a bar or a restaurant, there's a real easy answer, or if you're a barber shop, there's a real easy answer. But when you offer everything from banquet services to yoga classes in the same facility, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So to the public that has concern out there, I can assure you that the township department heads are working closely with me. We're making sure that we can open up access, everything that's permitted by law, and open up access in a safe environment for our community.
Thanks, Tom. Township Manager, Mr. Ream.
Can I ask Tom a question?
Yes. Joe, go ahead.
Tom, maybe, I think I misunderstood something. Were you saying that we can't meet in any type of meetings at the township until after next month? Is that correct? Because what about the study session that we got the email for?
What we have the study session, I believe it's okay because there won't be any public there.
That's okay. I'm just asking because I didn't know if I misunderstood what.
No, yeah, and I was thinking I'm going to mention our budget session in my report.
Wednesday night.
Right.
Right. The applicable statute refers to public meetings.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just didn't. I thought I misread it.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Ream.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to remind the residents that Township Hall is open by appointment only, and all staff is working and doing everything they can to service the residents. But please keep using the drop box. It's a very safe and effective way for service. And as Mr. Sorty said, we're closely watching what Lansing is telling us. So hopefully we'll know more soon. Seems to be changing every several weeks or so on what the requirements are. You have heard this from me before. Just want to remind everyone the official sources of township communication, and that is our meetings, our letterhead, GITV, obviously, our emails, our app, when we do posts and pushes and things like that. I've been approached a couple different times in the past week about social media and people wanting the township to engage, and I just want to remind everyone that's not our official source of communication. Everything that we say or do as an official, we're responsible for. We have to be accountable for. And social media is just people sharing their opinions, posting what they think is what they want to post. I'm not going to get into it any more than that. One specific item came up and I was going to address it, but I don't think it deserves any attention. So I'm just going to leave it at that to remind everyone that the township does not actively engage in social media. All of our channels of communication are for outgoing information. to the residents and to the community. And I just think that after some postings last week and after me being bombarded by a handful of residents, I just thought it was worth mentioning again. So, and we'll leave it at that. The topic and the post don't even deserve mention or attention. And our next Township Board business meeting is March 22nd, and that's 2 weeks from today.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Reeves.
that's it, Mr. Buddy.
I appreciate that. Supervisor's report, a few things. Bridge update, and I would remind everyone that the bridge update goes out every week, no matter how little information or how much information we have. We're giving you a bridge update every week on the website, GI Connect, and our Facebook page. The design continues. They're on schedule to start their work in April, and still believe that they will be done with the work at the end of September, beginning of October. So that's all good news. They're continuing with their permitting process. So everything is on course to get going, and hopefully we will have it done sooner rather than later. And I, again, would encourage everybody to continue to look at our official sites for the updates that come out every week. And we continue to have our weekly meeting with Wayne County and plan to do that until the project is done. COVID shots. Wayne County Health Department is going to every community to do COVID shots for the people, and now people 50 and older who have extenuating conditions. So they reached out to us last week. We're putting together the program. Again, watch for it. We will let you know when it's going to happen. We believe we're going to have the shots down at Centennial Farm, and everyone that signs up for a shot will get a shot. If they can't do it all on the assigned day, they will come back. But everybody that signs up will get a shot. And again, now it's 50 and older, 50-year-olds and older who have the underlying conditions. So that will be coming. We should be finalizing that very soon. We were talking about the budget session. The budget session this year, our study session, will be on TV. So the public can watch it. We will be convening, it'll be this Wednesday at 6:30. I decided to have it as a separate session for a couple of reasons. One being the normal is something as big as that. I didn't like the time constraints that we usually have on a study session right before a board meeting. So we have to rush through it. This way we don't have to. Plus the fact that we have so many new board members that are going through it for the first time, I wanted to make sure that they have plenty of time to ask their questions. So it'll be a separate session this Wednesday, 6:30 for the residents, it will be on GITV. And lastly, I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't been off the island for a while, Wayne County started road work on Allen Road and Van Horn Road. It started March 1st, and it is planned to conclude in the late fall of this year. So there's going to be disruption. If you haven't been out there, you're going to find a little inconvenience maybe on Allen Road between West Road and Breland. And that is my report. So with that, we will move to public comment on action items. Ryan?
Okay, do we have any public comment on the 2 action items we had this evening?
I have a comment. Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you, John.
Yeah, my request is regarding the shots. What about special needs? Under 50. I mean, that's really being compromised. Children under 50 should have access to the shot.
Wayne County, Mr. Spot, Wayne County is doing it. Theirs is 50 and older.
Well, I'm asking you as a township supervisor.
As the township is not doing, it does not have a health department. We cannot do anything.
Well, I'm asking, can someone look into it and see what they can do?
I'd be glad to look into it and see if we can come up with an answer for that, John.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I mean, there's quite a bit of special needs on this island.
Okay. Anybody else?
And what about adults that are under 50 that are compromised with cardiology issues and things like that? Can you look into that too and ask that question?
Yeah, I will look into that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any public comment tonight on the 2 action items? I'm seeing none.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much. And see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.